Hey there. My name? It's not important. But what is important is that I did in fact survive my trip to the land of the rising sun. This is also my dumbass. Shortly after entering a foreign nation for the very first time, I am immediately faced with the police. This is my story. There's a lot of Asian people in this country.
What? No.
I'm doing a vlog, guys. Leave me alone.
I thought you were just like saying that.
You know what? On top of being a Japan review, this is also a story time video. So I think it's only fitting that I detach this here microphone and sit back on the couch, get cozy. It's going to be a minute. Am I doing this right? Hang on. I'm going to unplug this. Urgh. I should probably find my pants. July 11th through the 25th was my 2-week Japanese journey. I had previously never left the good old US of A. I have traveled extensively throughout this country, but alas, I had never been overseas. I also don't speak any Japanese. I only know a few key words, nothing to hold up a genuine conversation. So that's bound to make things interesting, to say the least. The third thing is, I was initially going to authentically vlog this, but it dawned over me pretty quickly that we were going to be there for a while. It was an overwhelming amount of footage to obtain, and I also didn't want to shove a camera in everyone's face the entire time. Rather, enjoy the experience at face value and live in the moment. But I absolutely captured some key pics and vids to compile for this very video. The story starts with me departing from Logan Airport in Boston, Massachusetts, and making my way over to our layover in Minneapolis. It was there that I met up with 2 of the other 3 members of this trip, one of which you are very familiar with if you're an avid viewer of this channel.
Is Timothy drinking? Because he is a young Christian boy. That's how we like him. Not that kind. No, not.
That's right, Crazy Rabbit. He and I have met a couple of times IRL before. Great dude. One day he just asked me randomly, hey, do you want to go to Japan? And I was like, fuck yeah, why not? The other guy that we met up with at the layover was Nerfx, who is one of his channel mods. So the 3 of us star-spangled douchebags made our way over from Minnesota to the Tokyo Haneda Airport, which was roughly 13-14 hours. It wasn't fun. Could be worse. We did pay for some pretty good seats. We were wined and dined, got some food, watched some movies. There's a 4th member to this trip, but we have not gotten to that point yet. He has not entered the chat yet. For now, it's just us 3 having arrived in Japan. And I remember when we landed, didn't really hit me until I walked out of the plane and started looking around, and everything was in a different language and all the people looked different and everything felt different, that I was like, finally, holy shit. So of course I'm carrying around some useless US dollars, and I need to exchange some of that for some fine Japanese yen. So I head over to the ATM in the 7-Eleven within the airport and get some. This is 1,000 yen. The handsome gentleman on the front. It sounds like a lot until you realize that it's actually the equivalent of exactly $6.83 US. So you know, you're walking around with a lot more money in Japan as someone with US dollars. It's a little bit tricky. So the way we did it was we took away the 2 zeros at the end of the number, and that's roughly what you get in US dollars. Not exactly, of course, because this, again, is not worth exactly $10. It's worth a little bit less than 7, but you get the general idea. With that yen, we then purchased this Passmo card. It's got Hello Kitty on the front, super cute. A lot of things in Japan are just weird like that. This allowed us to use the transportation system, the subway, railroad, tram, trolley, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You know, the thing on tracks that moves you. So we then got to Shinjuku City, which is where we were staying. It's based in Tokyo, so we're essentially staying in Tokyo. And then we pretty much scrapped the Passmo and exchanged it for the Suica, which is the far superior alternative. Not only does it not expire like the Passmo, which is only temporary, it has a wider range of uses, including but not limited to transportation, of course, but also general shopping. They have tons of vending machines, convenience stores, virtually anything you can use this on. This is your lifeline. If you go to Japan, trust me, the money will stay on it forever. There's still money on this one to this day. It is super helpful. Anyways, we're in Shinjuku City now. We're looking for our Airbnbs, naturally. Now, Crazy Rabbit, he has his own Airbnb, so he separates to find his. This is where shit hits the fan very quickly. We've only been in Japan for about an hour at this point. We pull out Google Maps and plug in the address from the Airbnb app. We directly copy and paste it. I just want you to keep that in mind. We copy and paste it verbatim, put it in, and we begin walking. Now, without giving away the entirety of the exact address, we are looking for a building named something along the lines of Lions Mansion, Kabukicho, number 3. Simple enough. Mind you, we just got done with a 14-hour flight, almost an hour of sitting on the subway. It is like, I want to say 95 degrees outside, dude. It's super fucking humid. Not a fun environment. I got this baggy sweatshirt on, sweatpants. I'm carrying around a ton of luggage. Nerfx and I are just huffing and puffing, making our way there. But we do finally get there, and we make our way up to the 4th floor, to room 402, to where we are supposed to be. Dude, when I tell you that this is the most sus-looking room ever, let me describe it to you as best as I can. It's very small. It's like a 1-bedroom studio apartment, except the bedroom is the entire, like, there's no doors other than the one that leads to the tiny little bathroom. So it's all one living space. There's 3 beds. 2 of them take up half of the room, and they're shoved to the back wall, covering the sliding door that leads to the balcony, so you can't even access the balcony. And then there's a 3rd bed to the side, this little half doggy bed. I'll never forget it. There's a tiny little TV, a very, very small kitchen with a little sink, a mini fridge, a couple of appliances. There was like 1 closet, and then there was, like I said, the tiny little bathroom with the smallest shower I have ever had the misfortune to wash myself in, because I did take a shower right after we got in there. I was hot and tired and needed to refresh myself naturally. So I mean, like, I'm literally, like, crouched over in this fucking shower. Like, I can't stand all the way up because the ceiling is actually that low. It's not very wide either. Like, I can't even take a full step in either direction. And the way that they do showers oftentimes in Japan is they have you can detach the spout from the top, and then you have to kind of do it yourself. The sink is like almost overlap. It's like on top of the shower. The door, when it opens and closes, takes up like all of the rest of the room that is in there, which is essentially none. The smallest bathroom of all time, quite possibly the size of a porta potty. We were immediately disappointed that it was seemingly inadequate for the 3 of us, but it wasn't just disappointing. It was also alarming because it didn't look like the pictures. I was suspicious, but there's a lot of reasons why I wasn't more suspicious. Number 1, because sometimes the photos are updated on Airbnb. Sometimes the host changes the layout or updates the pictures and it doesn't look identical. So I figured that could have been a possibility. I also considered the fact that we used the exact combination that they gave us, got in there, so that seems like a step in the right direction. And frankly, I was so tired and hot and miserable at the moment that I didn't even question it. I was just like, you know what, cool. Took a quick shower, had 2 beers that they left in the fridge, which is pretty cool, little Japanese beers, and then I took a nap. Nerfx left and then came back. But as soon as he came back, which was like all within the same hour, we heard a knock on the door. Keep in mind, I was passed out, so I get up, shuffle over there. I'm half asleep. I open up the door. I'm like, oh, what's up? And at the door was this irate, sweaty Chinese, not Japanese, Chinese woman. Okay? Screaming at me in a language that I don't understand. I think it's Mandarin. That's probably what it is, but who knows? I don't know. Nerfx doesn't know. Both of us are staring at her as she's staring back at us with blank expressions. And we kind of like look at each other and we're like, I could tell both of us in our heads, we're like, oh shit, something ain't right. I could not identify the problem. Although, the two words that she kept mixing in with the rest of her words that I couldn't understand that were in English were your mistake. Your mistake, your mistake, your mistake, blah, 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 your mistake. I was like,
what? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Thankfully, two other women approached from behind her, one of which was her daughter, I believe, who did speak some semblance of English, and she broke down the situation for us in some broken English. And it became very clear to us that they thought that this place that we were in was theirs, that they had booked it, and that we had made a mistake and that we were in the wrong place. So at that point, we tried explaining to the daughter, who then tried explaining to her that we actually got in here not long ago. We had the combination. We're here with Airbnb, showed her the app, the whole nine. And she wasn't having it. I mean, she was just pissed. You know, it's funny. I thought Karens were a thing only here at home, but it turns out it's a universal thing. This woman was a total Karen, was not giving us an inch, was not calming down. Nerf continued talking to them. I went on the Airbnb app and re-examined the address, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something seemed a little bit off. So I took the address and then I put it directly into Google. Not Google Maps, but regular Google. And I saw some photos of the building that we were supposed to be at, which wasn't the building that we were at. You may be wondering, how did you get inside if it's the wrong place? You must be in the right place. Well, hey, I thought the same thing. They gave us a combination. I put it in the keypad. We got the key. There's only two possibilities if this were the wrong place. One, miraculously, somehow, the combination is the exact same at the room at a different building that we're supposed to be at. They just happen to be the same combination. Maybe it's a default thing. Or the keypad was broken. Those are my only two theories. I called Airbnb support. I frantically texted the host until I got the exact address that I was supposed to be at. And without giving the entirety of it away, it's something along the lines of Lions Mansion, Kabukicho, number 3. That's where we're supposed to be at. Now, it turns out the address that we were at currently was Lions Mansion, Kabukicho, Building B. Building B, number 3. That's the only difference. It's the same fucking company. It's the same style of building. Here's the kicker. They're on the same block. Corresponding sides. Not even a 5-minute walk within each other. Imagine you have, in the United States, for example, 2 Holiday Inn Expresses on the same block. You take the address that you're supposed to go to, plug it into Google Maps, and it takes you to the wrong one. One of them is Building B. One of them is number 3. I mean, they even rhyme. You go to the wrong one. You take the right keypad to your room, and it works. I relay the information to Nerf, and then we start packing our stuff. And we begin to leave. But she wasn't going to have that. She did not allow us. She called the police. When I found out the police were getting involved, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't even nervous. I was actually relieved because they were more likely to help than not. They were more likely to be a mediator and get to the bottom of it rather than escalate it. The only catch is they didn't speak any English. I get it. It's probably not a part of the job description to learn English as a Japanese police officer. Totally understandable. But it definitely made things complicated. So we all take out our phones and hop on Google Translate. And so I'm having a conversation with these officers via Google Translate. We don't understand each other. We're just texting each other and then passing the phones back and forth, reading, nodding like, oh, yeah, passing it back and forth. It was the most primitive caveman shit. Sweaty Betty, who's all riled up like a pit bull out in the hallway, she's conversing with the officers in Japanese because even though she's Chinese and she's also a foreigner, she understands Japanese. So they're communicating pretty easily amongst each other, but they're having a tough time with us. So, like I said, just passing the phones back and forth, explaining the whole situation as I explained it to you. They asked me how I got in, naturally. And I told them, I was like, we took the combination from Airbnb and plugged it in. And I'm not going to lie, they probably didn't have a great grasp of what Airbnb was. They're familiar with hotels and apartments, I would imagine, but not the app, because visitors, foreigners that look like me are the ones that use them there most. It's not like they're dealing with this kind of problem regularly. And honestly, I think they thought it was pretty funny because I could tell they were holding back their smirks. And I was like, the only person who was genuinely angry was the Karen, the lady. The rest of us were chilling. Like, we were all just kind of like, oh, you know what? Big mix up. Apologies. What do you want us to do? And so they asked her what she would like from us. And since we had stayed there for roughly an hour, and I did take a shower, and I did lay on top of the bed, we didn't make a mess by any means, but since we did make our presence felt in the room, they wanted one night stay's worth of cash, which was 40,000 yen, which, you know what, let me look up the exact price of what that is in US dollars. It's not that bad, $273. That's what we had to pay to resolve this. I actually didn't even have that much yen on me at the moment, but thankfully Nerf also had some, so we combined it, gave her the 40,000 yen for the one night stay's worth, and then we were able to pack up our stuff and walk away with the officers. We thankfully did not get arrested, did not even get a slap on the wrist, detained, nothing. We just had to leave. And that was the time that I almost got arrested, literally within a 2-hour time frame of me entering a foreign nation for the very first time. And where was Rabbit during all of this? He was standing in the hallway, giggling, texting us, and he's the one who took the photo. He unpacked his stuff, quickly made his way over during the commotion, and so we made our walk over to the nearly identical building on the same block to our correct Airbnb. We entered legally this time. The silver lining is it was an upgrade. It was significantly better than the previous one. Instead of one crammed little room, we had 3 separate bedrooms, one of which had a kitchen in it. The bathroom had a cool toilet with a bidet. Yay. We also had a balcony, which was really nice. It wrapped around the entire side of it. Later on that evening, we went back to the airport, picked up the 4th and final member of our crew, Deacon, codename Killer, another one of Rabbit's mods from Australia. That's right, he's Australian, which added a little bit of spice to our group. He, Narfex, and I split that room. Rabbit had one a very short distance away, separately, because he hates us. I'm going to break the rest of this up into 3 sections. The general stuff, like the people, culture, food, atmosphere, etc. I'm also going to talk about what we did on an average day-to-day basis, the funtivities we would get into, and then I'll go over the specific landmarks and places that we went to. First and foremost, atmosphere. Like I said, the second I landed, the air just felt different. Literally because it is a tropical climate. It is hot regardless because it is summer, even back home where I'm from, but it was marginally hotter, marginally more humid. The wildlife, the agriculture, plants, all that looked different. Secondly, the people and culture. I would say the average Japanese person I interacted with in Tokyo was reserved, yet very helpful and kind and respectful. The culture there is all about respect. They have a very specific code of conduct and customs there that if you abide by and respect, they will in turn do the same. They are very forthcoming, and like I said, they are definitely not super sociable, especially to foreigners. They're not outgoing by any means. They're very introverted. to outsiders, but if you open up to them or if you are just generally pleasant, they are some of, in turn, the most pleasant people you will interact with in the world. With Americans, you get a lot of that, but you also get more obnoxiousness, is the best way I can sum it up. And here's something that's perhaps a little bit out of pocket, but an observation nonetheless about the women. The women there are stunning. Stunning. Like 95% of them have gorgeous faces. You would be hard pressed to find an unattractive Japanese woman there. It's remarkable. It's truly remarkable, because the same cannot be said about where I live. The only downside, the flip side to that coin, is they're very thin, if you catch my drift. Timmy likes a little cushion. That's all. The culture is rigid in some regards. Some of the rules are pretty anal, not gonna lie, but a lot of it is for good reason, and they're more efficient in a lot of ways, so I do enjoy that. Additionally, the food, a staple of any trip abroad. I only have one particular complaint, and that is the size of the portions. Not very big. About half of what it is here, I feel like. At granted a cheaper cost, since you get more bang for your buck with US dollars over there, but the portion size threw me off. I get it. We as Americans are fatties. That's the old stereotype. We eat a lot of food over here. It's very true. I'm used to it. I'm sorry. And now that I'm actually, ironically, taking care of my health and I'm trying to get more protein intake, you just don't get a ton. You go to a restaurant, you get like 4 or 5 little pieces of chicken with some noodles or something, a little bit of rice. You know, that's just an example. You don't get a ton of food. That's it, though. The food in and of itself is amazing. No complaints with the taste. Seafood is obviously huge over there. I used to hate seafood as a kid. I've warmed up to it quite a bit. I like a lot of seafood. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Nowadays, I did try some of it. I didn't try sushi, though. I know that's sort of the Japanese cliche. You go there for sushi. I'm not a huge sushi fan, and even if I was, for whatever reason, I didn't even stumble across it. Swear to God. My personal highlight foods were the Wagyu beef. We went to this restaurant a couple of nights. You get a couple of beers. They give you a big old grill that they put in the middle of the table. They give you a plate full of raw Wagyu beef. You do have to cook it yourself, but the benefit of that is you can marinate it how you want, season it how you want, and cook it to whatever rarity you want. So that was good. You don't get a huge quantity, like I said. In fact, for what you pay for, it's next to nothing, it feels like, especially amongst 4 people, but it is the highest quality beef in the world. Also, the ramen was as good as everybody says it is. It was authentic. It wasn't that shitty prepackaged, dirt cheap ramen you buy at the store. We got a healthy mix of authentic Japanese food and Americanized food as well. We went to McDonald's quite a bit. They have an entirely different menu over there. They have some stuff that I cannot get here in the States, so I fully capitalized on that. They have a teriyaki chicken sandwich there that was just chef's kiss. 10 out of 10. And honestly, convenience stores, they are better over there than they are over here. Not only do you go there for the ATM to get your yen, but they have a huge variety of stuff there, and they have what I like to call the big 3. They have the 7-Elevens, the Family Marts, and the Lawsons. They're everywhere. They were pretty close to our room as well. You go in there, and they have, obviously, like, tons of different Japanese foods, but a lot of American ones as well. They have these prepackaged meals of chicken, beef, pork, whatever, combined with rice, noodles, and stuff like that. And then you can have it microwaved in the store, which they might do here, but as far as I'm aware, they don't do in the States, which was also a huge bonus. And the alcohol. I could walk into a 7-Eleven and grab wine, seltzers, beers, whatever, and they do not ID you. I assume they do not because I am a foreigner, clearly, and they probably figure, hey, you look old enough, and if you're old enough to get into this country by yourself, you're probably good to have a beer, so whatever. They never checked my passport or my ID once. Got plenty of booze from the convenience stores, among other places. We'll get to that, but the convenience stores are great for a multitude of reasons, And there are also tons of vending machines everywhere. And the vending machines have everything. Like cigarettes are huge over there. They have those. I'm not a cigarette smoker, but they even have alcohol in the vendies. They have lots of different drinks as well, obviously, snacks. Vending machines are huge there. Americanized convenience stores and plenty of American restaurants and stuff also exist over there. Let's move on to what our average day would look like over there. Because even though every day wasn't exactly the same, they looked pretty similar. An average day hanging around in Shinjuku would start off, of course, with a workout. Rabbit and I would go to the Anytime Fitness right around the corner. I took full advantage of the lat pull-down machine while I was there. I don't have one of those in my house. I really wish I did. The best thing I can do to stimulate my lats is an endless amount of pull-ups, which is tedious, not super fun. It's the one weakness in my workout routine, not having that machine. So that was cool. It was a nice supplement. On the other hand, the pros of working out at home, it's in the comfort of my own home. I don't have to have anybody around. I get to work out in isolation, solitary with music, you know, the earbuds in. It's nice and peaceful. Don't have to worry about sharing equipment with other people, because while I do miss having that lat pull down machine, I actually had to wait like a half hour for it at one point because some fucking jerk wouldn't get out of there. He's just sitting there on his phone. I don't like that. And I also don't like paying 3,000 yen entry fee every time. If Rabbit and I didn't go to Anytime Fitness, we would instead go to Okubo Park, which has a basketball court. A Kevin Durant designed basketball court. I think it was charioted by him. It has a big old KD in the middle, which I thought was really cool. Lots of Japanese kids playing basketball there. It was really fun to play against them. Huge language barrier. Couldn't understand them. Really didn't talk to them. But there were other foreigners there as well. For instance, Rabbit and I paired up with two Spanish dudes from Spain. They spoke decent English, and I know a couple of words in Spanish, but nothing crazy. The four of us faced off against four Japanese kids, mopped the floor with them. Another quick observation, this time about the men there. The tallest dude I saw in Japan was one of the kids I was playing with at the court, who was weirdly rocking a Kyle Kuzma Washington jersey, which I just thought was hilarious. But this dude was like 6'4". He's like the tallest dude I saw there. I'm like 5'11". 6 feet would be kind of stretching it, but everyone who's 5'11" says they're 6 feet, so I'm just going to say I'm 6 feet. This dude was a couple of inches taller than me. Other than that, most of them were much smaller. After that, we'd shower off, maybe grab some food, and then shopping/exploring was a big component of our average day. We would go to neighboring cities like Shibuya, Akihabara, Kabukicho, you know, all these places where there were a myriad of different stores containing lots of different things, some of which listen, not me. I'm not the hentai guy, but we did go into hentai stores. I shall not name the names of the people who dragged us into those stores, but yeah, I mean, we explored lots of different types of stuff. Another huge staple was the arcade. We went to dozens of them. They are everywhere, and they're so much better, so much more advanced than the American ones. It is like walking around in a dreamland. Everything is even more vibrant and even more lively. There's way more people in there. Like, I remember back in my hometown, there was an arcade. Granted, it's been modernized, I think, since, but I remember going there as a kid, and there'd be like maybe a couple of kids in there running around. You know, all the dads sitting on the picnic bench by the front, just kind of like either having a beer, just like on their phone. Like, I remember my dad was the same way. He'd be like, here's $20, fuck off, basically. It was right next to the bowling alley. It was just a very depressing vibe. In Japan, it's just like, wow, it is like one of their staples. The number one thing were the crane machines. Initially, Rabbit and friends were the ones pouring all their money in there, failing to grab waifus from these crane machines, and just, you know, festering in their own misery. And I was laughing like, ha ha ha, you guys suck. And then eventually I gave it a try, and then once I got a taste of that blood, like a shark getting a taste of blood in the water, I was hooked. And then I started spinning these crane machines constantly, and I was streaky. I did very poorly for a lot of the time, but I did actually win, I think, at least 3 times. First I got Krogunk, then I got Squirtle a couple of days later. It took me many tries to get Squirtle because he is my favorite Pokemon ever. Just the fucking cutest. Just look at this dude. He wouldn't be complete without his Russian hat. I would leave it on, but it kind of blocks everything. We also had a lot of fun playing Mario Kart DX Racer on these giant life-size machines. The 4 of us as a unit. It's 200 yen per play. You slide in the coins, and you get 2 laps of a race. They have a decent map variety. I played lots of Mario Kart in my day on the Wii, the Switch, even the GameCube. Nothing was quite like that. It was spectacular. We probably played for hours total. Needless to say, these arcades were pimped out. They had many different levels to them, which I thought was interesting because malls here in the US, or buildings in general, for example, are horizontally inclined, flat on the ground, but in Japan is the opposite. They go up and down quite a bit. There's probably like a dozen different levels to some of these arcades or malls or buildings of lots of varieties where you do have to walk up and down a lot of stairs, but obviously there are elevators, and I think it's more efficient that way. A lot of things in Japan are more efficient because you only have so much space on that island, which, by the way, Japan's not very big. It's like the size of California. Kind of mind-blowing. They don't have a ton of space, not an endless amount, so they got to build more upwards. And of course, at the end of the night, whether it was before or after the arcade, we would go to bars. We would drink. Not every single night, but at least every other night we would go get shit-faced because we're on vacation and we're in a completely different country, and that's a big part of the tourist culture, is slugging back a couple grogs, getting proper pissed, as Killer would say. So, I mean, there are lots of different bar choices. There's a very specific tourist-friendly one that I would recommend. It's called Golden Guy. It's like a labyrinth. There's a couple of different alleyways, all of which have dozens of bars in them. These bars are not very big. They're very small, compressed rooms with one bartender and maybe a half dozen stools. There isn't a ton of space, but the silver lining is you get pretty much the entire place to yourself because it can only fit you and your group. So you walk around until you can find an open one. There are so many that you're hard-pressed to not get into any of them. Sometimes you share with other people, but oftentimes we would just go in there, the 4 of us, and we'd get the entire place to ourselves, sit there for a couple hours, have a couple drinks, shoot the shit, and then we would bar hop, go back and forth. That was super, super fun. And there are other specific bars that we went to, like the Muscle Girl Bar. You pay a flat fee of 5,000 yen. Not a lot of money. We're talking 35, maybe 40 bucks. And you get all you can drink. So we had pints and pints and pints of booze. And these muscle girls aren't quite stripping. It's not a strip club, but they do hop on these poles. They do these little like muscle show-offs, these little performances. You can exchange yen for what's called muscle dollars, and then you can spend those muscle dollars on different stuff. They have an actual menu. You can have one of these women slap you in the face, or kick you, or give you a piggyback ride, or take photos with you, or do a bench press challenge. There's so many different like wacky fucking things you can do in there. Also, shout out to Shisha Tokyo. That was the first hookah bar I'd ever gone to. You go in there, get a couple drinks, you get a big old glass bong, and you're ripping some hookah, dude. You get a good old Nick buzz, kick around with the boys, lounge back. Shout out to the guy who runs that place, by the way, a Turkish American dude who had been living there for almost a decade. I remember we stayed, because we went 2 different nights. One of those nights we stayed until like 2 in the morning, and we were the last customers there. So for like 2 hours, we were talking to this guy. Super, super based conversation. Learned so much. Also, on a few different occasions, on several different nights, Timmy separated from the group and went to a club. We'll call it a club. And one of the nights was but the first night I went, one of the best nights of my life, dude. Wow. On a couple different occasions, I went to a Thai massage place. Cost 10,000 yen, which is like 80 bucks, give or take. And they give you an hour-long massage. And I will say, it was a hell of a massage. Hell of a massage. That's all I got for you. And to wrap it all up, we're going to go over some of the key landmarks that we went to. On one of the first days, we went to the Shinjuku Gyoen National Garden, which was right aside from the city, so you could still see the city, but you were detached from it. You can go out into the wilderness, and there were some pretty cool animals out there. Natural koi fish, not the ones that have been pigmented over time for display, like at restaurants and stuff, not the colorful ones, but the natural ones that are grayish brown, the ones that look like real fish, you know what I mean? It's super cool to see them out in the wild. It's the first time I've ever seen that. Plus, there were turtles. I wanted to see some lizards. Unfortunately, I didn't. I have a Chinese water dragon at home. I wish I could have seen a lizard out in the wild because I still have yet to do that. But there were also lots of different birds and bugs. The plants were diverse and plentiful and very tropical. Beautiful. One of those nights, we also went to Tokyo Skytree. It is a very tall, erect building. I'll show you a side-by-side of what it looks like during the day versus at night. At night, they light it up. You can go on a tour. You pay a little bit to go up through the elevators to the very top, and I believe it is 2,080 feet tall. I don't love heights, I'm not gonna lie, but it was nonetheless surreal to be able to look out into the city at night and just see basically all of it. And on one of the last days, we did manage to escape the city, get a JR pass, hop on the railroad, and make our way out to the countryside at Kawaguchi, which is near the base of Mount Fuji. I did get a decent picture of Mount Fuji. It was a very cloudy day, so you can't see much of it, but nonetheless, it's enormous. At the base of it, there is Lake Kawaguchi, which is the most serene scene you could envision. Absolute silence other than the occasional bird chirping or, you know, insect off to the side. Just pure silent bliss. People by the lake minding their own business in their own little world, fishing, and people are biking, and it's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The only scary thing was I saw one of those infamous Asian murder hornets, Japanese wasps, the ones that are the size of fucking birds. I did manage to see one of those. I was walking over a bridge and it flew underneath us, so it didn't engage with us, but it was massive. We also managed to go over to the Ichuku Kubota Art Museum, which is a museum full of artifacts and robes and stuff like that. I wasn't even fully sure what it was, but they made us take our shoes off because there's expensive ancient stuff in there, and you know, it was still really cool. There were some other miscellaneous places, but those were the highlights. Could we have done more? I suppose so. There's always room for more, but we got to everything that we really wanted to get to, and we enjoyed our time. I would say the greatest highlight, though, the fondest memories, are not the places we visited necessarily, or the things we did, or the things we bought. It were the guys that I went on the trip with. It was hanging out with them, especially at night on the balcony, having a couple backwoods, shooting the shit, reflecting on whatever that respective day held. No matter how chaotic or stressful or fun it was, we would sit out there and cap it off pretty much every night the same way. And those are the memories that hit the hardest. Rabbit I had known for a while and had met a couple of times before, like I said, but the other guys I'd actually met for the very first time, so just getting to know them better in person and hang out with them was just really cool. It was the best part, for sure. And I miss that already. And I told them while I was there, and I knew it the whole time, that while I was there, I was going to be homesick, but the second I came home, I was going to miss that like hell, because those are the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity type trips that, you know, you can plan them out. You can go often, maybe once a year, every other year, but I mean, that's so long apart. They're far and few between, and you really got to cherish it while you can. So, from almost being arrested for breaking and entering, to clubs, to the food, the wildlife, arcades, you name it, all of Japan was amazing. And I will say, for a non-Japanese speaker, they make it very easy for you, at least in Tokyo, because there are signs in English. If not, you can use the Google Translate app with the picture mode, then you can just translate the text directly to English or whatever respective language you speak. So traversing the area wasn't so difficult. Things there are very tourist friendly. Definitely a must-see destination. I want to try to visit every single continent at some point in my life. Pick one good place in each one, hopefully. Japan was definitely the Asian one. I'm also interested in maybe going to Vietnam one day, maybe South Korea. Those intrigue me. Thanks for watching. That's really it. Love you all. Love you all.